Hello everyone, it's Maria here from Pepperly Rose Paper Crafting. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be making a card featuring the Hammered Metal 3D embossing folder. This will be available for order on the, I think it's the 1st or the 4th of September. One of the two. I'll put the date up on the screen there somewhere. So that's coming soon in the holiday catalogue. I'm also going to use the Subtle 3D folder. I love this thing, so we're going to use that. We're going to use a good man. I'm going to make a Father's Day card, and I'm going to feature this image over here and this sentiment that says being a good dad starts with being a good man. So I think that's perfect, and because we've got Father's Day coming up in about 3 weeks time, so this is the perfect opportunity to do this. Also, I'm using the rectangle stitched framelit dies. So we'll get started on this project. To start off with, we're going to grab the Stamparatus. I love this thing. I'm going to take out the foam, and I'm going to bring a piece of watercolour paper, and I'm going to start off with that image here, and I'm going to put it over here, and then I'm going to use being a good man starts with being a, being a good dad starts with being a good man. So I'll just position that like that. And I'm going to heat emboss this, so I'm just going to put my embossing buddy over the top like so, and I'll show you everything else as we go along, but I wanted to get this done first. Okay, then we're going to grab our Night of Navy ink. I'm going to use a whole series of ink here. And I'm just going to ink up the image in Night of Navy. And this is why I like using the Stamparatus, or you can use your Misty, Tim Holtz, or any other stamp platform, is that you can get the images right if you hadn't done a good stamping to begin with. So it's really good, very precise. And I think that ought to do it, so I'm just going to do another stamp. Okay, and I think that did great, so I'm just going to wipe that off, and then I'm going to use my Versamark ink pad, and we're going to heat emboss that image. So this is one way of heat embossing any colour, ink you may have, by inking up the colour first and then using a Versamark over the top, and you can Versamark in any colour you wish. I mean, you can clear emboss it and it's like it's an embossed, like an embossing powder. So anyway, I'm just going to go over the top of that, make sure I really get all of that in. So this is on watercolour paper, because we're going to do some watercolouring today, and we're going to use the Stampin' Up! Inks. So, with that, just going to wipe that off. I'm going to leave that in there in case I need to use it again for whatever reason. Just put that over here, and I'll just grab some clear embossing powder. Sorry about the noise of that. I'll just grab some clear embossing powder, and I'll just pour it over the stamped images. And as you can see, it's taken up the ink exactly where I want it. Give it a good flick. And what I'll do now is I'm going to heat emboss this off camera, and I'll be back shortly. So I have just finished heat embossing this. As you can see, it's got like a little bit of a shine to it. I'm not sure if you can see that. But this is now heat embossed. So what I'm going to do just for a couple of minutes is just let that cool off, and I'll bring my other elements. So I've got a piece of half an A4, scored in half again, of Night of Navy cardstock to make an A6 card base. So I've got that, and I'm just going to burnish the score line that I have previously prepared. Give it a good burnish. Then I've got some silver foil cardstock. Now this measures, let's see now, this measures 2.5 by 5 1/4, and that will go here. And then I've got a piece of Call Me Clover, and this measures 3 1/4 inch, sorry, how much is it? It's about 3 1/8 of an inch by 4 1/4. That will go over like that. And with this image, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that out with my rectangle stitched dies. And I'm going to pick the appropriate size. So I was going to pick this one. So I'll pick that one. And I'll just get some painter's tape. And for this, I'm going to cut a little bit off the bottom of the jeans there. So I might actually pick the next size up. That might be a bit better. So let's get the next size up. And I'll just do a partial cut. Yeah. That's a bit too much. Decisions. Oh well, I'll just cut off a bit of the jeans. Doesn't matter. It is what it is. So, do that. Right there. Okay. I'm going to grab my big shot. We're also going to emboss another couple of pieces there. So I'll grab that big shot. And I'll cut that through. And now so now that's cut through. It looks really good. And then what I'm going to do is take off the thin die adapter and the 2 cutting pads, and I'm going to emboss the Call Me Clover with my subtle 3D folder. So I'll just pop that in there. Make sure it's nice and straight. And then, actually no, this one is the Sizzix one, so I have to use one of the cutting pads for this one, the regular big shot ones. So if you've got the one that says Sizzix, you use the regular cutting pad that Sizzix provides, the big shot. And then I'll just show you this now all embossed. That looks, I love the texture of that. So that folder's done. And then I'm going to emboss with the Hammered Metal 3D folder, embossing folder. And I'll grab my piece of foil. And for this one, not sure if I should, I'll use the embossed image for that. So, because this is now the new Stampin' Up image, okay, I'm using not the deboss side here with the line, I'm using the one underneath that. Okay, and then I'm going to add my 3D embossing plate, and that provides the right thickness for that folder. And that's it with my big shot work. So I'll take that away. Okay, I'm just putting my plates away so I don't lose them. And check that out. How 3D is that? And then underneath it's got the debossed side, but I'm going to use this side today, and I love the texture of this. So when I put this together, it will look like that, and like that. I think that will look great. But we're going to watercolour this image. So what I'm going to grab is my all-time favourite craft mat. And we're going to use this craft mat as a palette. And you will need an aqua painter. I've got the one from Stampin' Up, and I'm using the larger one for backgrounds. So I've got a little bit of water in there, not a lot. And then I've got this Zig one, which has got an extra fine point. So I'm going to be doing some watercolouring. So the colours I'm going to be using today are Call Me Clover, Balmy Blue, Smoky Slate, Night of Navy, Soft Suede, Blueberry Bushel, Mango Melody, and Petal Pink. So we're going to start off with the Petal Pink, and what I'm going to do is just tap on my craft sheet the tiniest amount right there. So what I'll do is I will just zoom you in there so you can have a look. And let's zoom in. Can you see that? It's just the tiniest amount of ink. So I'm going to zoom you out again. Okay, so I'm just going to grab that ink. I'm just going to wet my brush, make sure that's wet. As you can see now, my finger's wet. Just going to grab a little bit of that colour, and I'm just going to paint the face of the child there. And then I'm going to paint the arms of the dad. You don't need a lot. That's a bit too much water there. Okay, just grab a little bit more Petal Pink. What you can do as well is, why don't we do this? We just squeeze the back of the stamp pad, open it up, and you'll have a tiny little pool there of ink. So just grab a little bit of the Petal Pink. Make sure it's not overly wet, and just dab on the colour. And I'll just get a bit more colour. And it's just straight watercolouring. Just a bit more. Okay, so that's that bit done. Now, for the hair of the child, I'm going to use soft suede, so I'm just going to press on the back and get the tiniest amount of ink. Just make sure that the brush is quite dry, and just get a small amount and just start off small. Okay, so that's the hair done. with the top of the child, I'm going to use, let me think now, I think I'll use Blueberry Bushel. So I'm just squeezing the back. No, didn't squeeze enough. Squeeze that. That's not going to work for me, so I'm just going to tap on a little bit of the ink onto my craft mat over there. Just pick up some colour. Just spread it around. Like that. Just add a little bit more colour. Okay, and now for the denim jeans, I'm going to, oh, there's shoes here too, I didn't see that. Okay, so for that, the pants, I'm going to use Night of Navy. So I'll just tap some over here. There we go, just a line. And I'll use a darker blue, and that will be the Night of Navy for the jeans. Oops. I'll just pick up that colour. Just pick that up. Now, for the dad's top, I'm going to make the jeans a dark blue here for the dad. Just do that. And I'll colour right to the edge. So the dad's wearing jeans. And then for the top, I was going to use Mango Melody, but I don't think I'll need it. So I think that's done with the jeans. I'll just make sure I make these a little bit darker. Just straight colour. Just give the colour a wipe here. With my chamois, dry that off. Okay, so for the dad's top, I'm going to use Call Me Clover. And I'll just tap some right there. Make sure that my paintbrush is dry as possible. And I'll just pick up some of that colour. And do that. And just colour that in. Okay, so that's it with the Call Me Clover. So you don't need a lot of ink, just a couple of little little drops. You don't need much at all. So we've got some shoes there from the child, from the little boy. So I'm going to get some soft suede again. Just going to dab that image there and dry that up a little bit. I'm going to add a bit more brown, make the hair a little darker. And make the shoes quite dark as well. And with the top, I want to add another colour. I might add the orange just to keep it interesting. So get rid of that. And I'll add some Mango Melody along the bottom, just to have another colour and make it look a bit interesting. So, oh, there we go, a bit much, but anyway, we'll see what happens. All right, let's do the bottom half. Yeah, I might do the whole thing in Mango Melody there and give it an interesting colour. Just brighten it up because it's just too blue. Gets a bit boring when it's just too blue. So it's just a mishmash of colour there. I think that's better. So it's like a mustard coloured top. So can you see that? That looks really good now. So what I'll do now is I will clean my brush. Okay, and I'll just dab off a little bit of the hair, just a tad. Just lighten it up a little bit. There, I think that looks a bit better now. So that's the image so far. That's looking good. So what I'm going to grab now is my larger brush. I'm just going to wet the brush now so it's not so dry. And I'm going to grab my Balmy Blue. And I'm just going to put a little bit of Balmy Blue. I've got some on the lid already there, so I'll pick that up a little bit. Dab off there and just go around just slightly. Just around the image. And what I like about embossing these images too is it keeps the colour in. Oops, that's a bit much, the colour. So just dab off just a tad. Be very careful. The colour's a bit... Okay. Just go around the image. And a little bit here. Right round. So it just gives an outline around the image. I'll just show you that. See, it's just a slight outline around the image. Okay, so what I'm going to do now off camera is I'm going to heat this up and then I'll be back just to dry it off. So I've just given a quick once over with the heat tool just to dry off the watercolouring. I think that turned out really lovely. So I'll put these away and we'll start assembling the card. But before we do that, we've got to do an inside. So I've got some Whisper White cardstock that I forgot to trim up. So I'm just going to bring my trimmer. I'm going to trim this up. I'm going to trim this up a little bit. And I'll just trim that up there. See, I use these little washi tapes as a guide. But I love the way this thing cuts. Just love it. All right. So with this image here, I'm pretty happy with the way this turned out. So I don't need to keep this in my Stamparatus anymore. So what I'm going to do is going to carefully take them off. And with this piece of paper here, with the Whisper White, this is for the inside, I'm going to stamp the dad down here. Okay, so I'll just stamp him just there. Oops. And I'll be doing that in Night of Navy. So just grab the stamp set and put that in here. And I'll just grab some Night of Navy ink. Okay, and I'll give this a quick stamp. Turned out absolutely perfect. And I'll just give that a clean. And that turned out really good. I'm really happy with that. So I'm going to take off my stamp, put away my Stamparatus. I like to always put my stamps back in their spot. I'll just clean that for a second. I think I cleaned it 100% properly. Yep. Okay, just let that air dry for a little bit. Alright, so I'm just going to now bring back my card base. So that's Night of Navy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to now stick this in here. I don't need a lot of glue, but I'm really happy with this glue. Lasts forever. Okay. So that's stamped absolutely beautiful. So now I'm going to bring my silver foil piece. I'm going to put that up here. Love the texture of this. This is a great embossing folder. A real standout for me from the new holiday catalogue coming up in a couple of weeks' time, 2-3 weeks' time. So it won't be long before you're able to get it. So I'll just leave a little bit of a border up here and on the side, make sure it's even. Give that a good press. Not to press too hard that you get rid of the texture, but just have a look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? All right. So now we've got our piece of Call Me Clover that I've texturized with the subtle embossing folder. So 3D folder. So I'm going to put this like that, and I'm going to put this like so. And I think that turned out great. So I'll stick this down with some glue. Like that. At an angle, that makes it look interesting when it's at an angle. And then for this, I might just put that like that. So I'll just give this a good press down just for a moment to make sure it adheres down. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial so far. It's just fun, and I'm just gone back to basics with my stamping pads, so you can get a lot of use out of your ink pads. And then I'm just going to stick this down, and I'm going to stick this on dimensionals. So I'll just grab those. I keep mine in the large stamp case. You can use these to, you know, store lots of stuff. So I'll just get some, some dimensionals. That one's come off already. And that'll do me. Put that away. Okay, I'm going to use that trick that my lovely viewer told me about. Just poke it in the middle a little bit, and it helps the backing paper to just come up on the side, so it's easier to pick off. And that's clever. I love these tips that I get from my viewers. So any of you that give me tips, please share. I'm happy to you know, take them on board as well. I'm not very fussy about, because I don't know everything, so, but I enjoy sharing what I do. So now I'm just going to pop this over here, and I'm really happy with the way that turned out. Hope you like it as well. So today I used a Good Man stamp set. This is fantastic for the man in your life. You can use this for multiple occasions. I love the 3D embossing folder hammered metal. This is lovely. So you have this side that gives you this texture, and on the other side you have the more debossed side, which looks lovely as well. So I love, you know, embossing folders that way. Then I use the subtle embossing folder. It doesn't look like much, but I love the texture it makes with, if you can see it there. Isn't it gorgeous? Love it. And of course the ever versatile rectangle stitched dies. These are fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to leave me a question below this video, or if you want to contact me privately, you may do so through my online store at peplyrose.stampinup.net. Use the contact me section and you can have a chat to me there. All right, everybody, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.